Alright, I'm going to be testing this out for recording in the future. For right now, I'm going to be working on some of the training videos that a lot of people missed out on if they can't make it to Tuesday sessions, so work or other stuff. So I'll be recording them, therefore people who miss it can watch it, or the people who were there can go back, watch it again. It's like their brain shut off while I was yammering on. This way you can actually listen to it probably before you fall asleep, to help you fall asleep or anything like that. But right now what I'll be doing is going over the Guardian, starting with the basics, moving up to intermediate, and then more expert gameplay. I'll start off with my build. Now, the build I have running right now is 00662. There are some theory crafting that includes 00644 or 00266. But for right now, we'll be running 662. 662 allows you toughness, vitality, and healing. So you'll be really, really tanky. What we'll be running, or at least what I'm running, is 6 in Valor. So you get precision based on your toughness for increased precision. Then, if you're running Hammer, you want to run 8 for chills. If you're not running Hammer, what you would be running will be Purity or Strength in Numbers. Those are two really good ones. Purity and Strength in Numbers, you can be running either of those if you're not running Hammer. And then the final one, what you want to be doing is running 13. So each time you block an attack, your allies around you get Aegis and they block. So if there's 3 Guardians in a party and they're all running 13, you can be redistributing Aegis over and over again, allowing for bigger sustain. If you can't run this, like if you haven't bought it or haven't unlocked it or anything like that, what you can do is use 11 right here, altruistic healing, which a lot of Guardian guilds they be running. They're running altruistic healing here. So if you haven't unlocked it, it's 3 gold. You can unlock it pretty quick. I highly recommend it. For honor, we got 6 honor. We got reduced shot recharge. That is a given. You need that no matter what. Secondly, in master, you'll be running reduced recharge on 2-handed weapons. If you're guardian running 1-handed weapon, you're doing it wrong. Get 2-handed weapons. No exceptions. Third one, nearby allies gain virtue resolves passive effect number 12. This is a must-have when we have warriors running with us, because with the warriors passive regen about 600-700 HP per second, you add this on top, you're giving the warriors about 1,000 health. So it's a pretty good regen tick, allowing warriors to have bigger sustain. Then finally in virtues, we have reduces recharge on consecration skills. This is a must-have as well, and you'll see why in a bit. Next we'll be looking at armor. So right now armor I'm running power, toughness, vitality, full. So everything power, toughness, vitality. Runes I'm running runes of Holbreck. Then fusions, if you have 300 gold laying around, go for the fusions. If not, there's no real point to it. But runes of Holbreck, for if you see the number 6 rune, you got might duration and minus 20 condition duration. This is perfect for frontline. If you're having trouble staying alive, generally, if you're having trouble staying alive, this does help. But if you're like literally falling, like dying on ink or something like that, which I should not be expecting from my guild members, but Runes of Melandru works very well for extremely high sustain for warriors. But for Guardians, I highly recommend Runes of Holbrook. If you are very skilled, you might as well move up to Runes of Strength. But I recommend Runes of Holbrook at least for every Guardian in the guild. Weapons. What we have for weapons is either a greatsword or a hammer. So for greatsword, you want to be running Sigil of Water and Sigil of Fire. This will allow for healing on hit and then damage on hit. So on critical. So if you're running tight in a group, this really helps if we have all our melee running this. So my goal is to have 10 melee grouped up for our guild. So if all 10 melee are running Sigil of Water, we're always providing heals whenever we're taking damage. And we take a lot of damage as frontline. And then with frontline, if we're doing Sigil of Fire with high crit chance, we can do a lot of damage. As you see here, critical hit ratio is 26%. So you really want a high crit chance. If you have a crit ratio under 15%, you need to boost that up. Use maintenance oil if need be to boost that up. Higher the crit, the better. We have power, toughness, vitality for both weapons, including the hammer. You can go for Zerker if you want, it's fine. So if we go for Zerker, that's fine as well. But I recommend soldiers or Valkyrie for now, for most of our frontliners. For trinkets we have power, toughness, vitality. If you want, you can switch out some of the PTB for Zerker trinkets. So if you find yourself surviving for a very long time, grab some Zerker trinkets as well to increase your damage output. So that's the armor I'm looking for, the runes I'm looking for, the traits, the weapons, the sigils, and the trinkets. So that should be keeping you busy for quite some time. Next, we'll be looking at the skill bar right here. So pay attention to these three right here, the virtues. A lot of people forget about the virtues in combat. They're extremely useful. Virtues provide burst heal. So what we want is people to use this wisely. Preferably in situations where we need healing on the go, healing while moving, instead of having to rely on water fields. So this right here is burst healing. What you can do is with a renewed focus as your elite skill, what you can do is pop your healing and then use renewed focus, pop your healing again. See how that works? So you're giving yourself about 4,000 healing in a very short amount of time for you and your allies nearby. You're also providing 2 Aegises, and if you're running the traits that I showed you earlier, where each time you block an attack you give Aegis to your allies, if our guardians are running this, what we have is you pop your Aegis, give your allies Aegis, and then your allies do the same thing. They block, they redistribute the Aegis, you use renewed focus, pop another Aegis, and they do it all over again. So you're blocking several attacks. That's why when we have renewed focus and the trait system set up, I want our healing skill to be Signet of Resolve. So all Guardians should be running Signet of Resolve. I know Guardians like to run Shelter, but the 2 seconds it provides is not worth the 4,000, 5,000 healing that it gives. So go for Signet of Resolve. Even if you die a lot, go for Signet of Resolve. For skills, we have Purging Flames, Stand Your Ground, and Signet of Judgment. Purging Flames and Stand Your Ground are a must-have. Pay attention to the recharge time of Stand Your Ground, 24 seconds, with a stability of little over 5 seconds. So if you have 3 Guardians doing rotations for stability, we should essentially be having stability all the way through. Whenever it's necessary, we have stability. So at any given time, we're not having trouble with stuns or anything like that. Purging Flame recharge is also 28 seconds. So use it wisely. Don't use it when you have like, for instance, bleeding on you, or vulnerability on you. Use it wisely. Use it when you have chills or cripples, because we want to stay tight as a group. So use it then. Use it when you're scared as well. Like if you're like have really low health, about like 2,000 health or something like that, and your party's falling as well. Burst all these skills. Burst your Virtual Resolve. Burst your Renewed Focus. Burst your Virtual Resolve again. And you'll be providing a lot of help for your group. And if there's 3 Guardians and 2 Warriors per group, which I'm recommending we have, you're giving 4,000 healing per Guardian, 3 Guardians, that's 6,000 healing. So it allows for a quick heal on the go without having to use our LEs as water fields. Signet of Judgment can be switched out at any given time for other skills, most likely like Hold the Line. Hold the Line is also a pretty popular skill to use. It provides health regen and protection on the move, and the health regen really helps the warriors. So if the warriors are getting the health regen from Hold Your Line, from the Virtual Resolve, and then their passive healing from their traits, warriors should never have any trouble with HP ever. Now, warriors also have a trouble with conditions. So, Purging Flames, 3 rotations of Purging Flames, and then the warriors having their Shake It Off. So, with that, and the combination with the runes, there should be no big issue with warriors or guardians having with conditions. So those are your healing skill and utility. You'll be running Renewed Focus, these 2 skills without a doubt, and then keep an eye out for Virtual Resolve. For weapons, we have Staff, Greatsword, or Hammer. All Guardians are running Staff. There's no exception to that. So what we have for Staff is Power, Toughness, Vitality, Signet of Bloodlust, because it is the loot stick. So what you can do is tap targets with your staff, get those kills in, get your bloodlust up, and then Signet of Energy is a must-have on your staff, because each time we switch to staffs on powers, we're giving ourselves a extra dodge roll. So like if we're running through a Zerg and you're taking a crap load of damage, you're dodge rolling through, and I call for stabs out, and then stop and re-empower, your dodge roll will fill back to 1 more, so I can make you guys dodge roll again. So you get 3 dodge rolls in a very short amount of time. Granted, you have to be in combat, so it's really hard to show you right here. So for weapons, staff. Pay attention to, you guys are really familiar with, Wave of Wrath. That's your spam skill. Any good guardian, any like hardcore guardian will have their number 1 button on their keyboard like broken. So you'll be using that skill a lot. Even when we're moving through a Zerg, you never stop using that skill. You constantly spam because it has a pretty long range. If you see the rainbow up there in front of you, that's the range it has. So it has a pretty long range. You could hit targets from a distance and avoid AoEs if need be. Second skill, Orb of Light. This is another burst heal. So what you do is spam that skill, right? So you either have a target within range, and then use the Orb of Light so you can heal your allies from a distance, or if you're running tight in a group, what you do is spam the skill, and therefore it bursts right away, and you provide healing at a short distance. It provides healing for about 1,000. So if we have 3 guardians running this, we can essentially get 1,000 healing on the move, plus the Virtual Resolve, 2,000 healing, Renewed Focus, Virtual Resolve, and then again Orb of Light. So what you're looking at is about 10,000 healing which is utterly fantastic. Over 10,000 heal, which is utterly fantastic to utilize. So you essentially be regaining about half your health bar pretty quick on the move without the use of using your healing signet or using water fields from Elementalist. So we got Symbol of Swiftness. Symbol of Swiftness is always, should always be on cooldown essentially. Definitely when you're on the move, so you're providing yourself stacks of swiftness. Whenever I stop to empower, Guardians have their stabs out, so stop and power, 3, 2, 1, stop and power. And then we throw down our symbols of swiftness, and then we move out in 3, 2, 1, and then we move out. So during a Zerg fight, we should always have swiftness on. Swiftness and stability are the two things you should always have on to keep the group mobile. Then we always have might put on. With the runes you have plus 20% might duration. So you should always have might during a fight. So might for power, symbols of swiftness, and then stability for mobility. Because a Zerg that is not mobile is a Zerg that's dead in the water, pretty much. So Empower has a 16-second cooldown, so what I like to do is provide empowers every 18 seconds. So 18 to 19 seconds I'll be doing another empower, at the very minimum, because it takes some time to be able to catch up to tag. So, if I stop to empower, you guys might be like 2 seconds behind me and not get the entire empower off before I move out. But I'll keep in consideration of your cooldown, so when I call for empowers again, we have about 18 seconds where we can actually get our empowers done. Lines of warning should always be used aggressively. Constantly and aggressively on the enemy Zerg. So it's always a good idea to throw out your lines of warning. So let's say we are about to fight a Zerg, and let's say the light golem is a Zerg. So let's say we're going to stop in power in 3, 2, 1, stop in power, symbol swiftness down, empower, lines of warning out, and then we'll be moving out. So this allows extra, an extra way to disrupt the enemy Zerg if they don't have stability. So we have Ellie's throwing down their static fields from one end, and then Guardians throwing down lines of warning from the other end, and we're constantly trying to control the enemy Zerg. That's the whole point, is control. Mobility for us, control for them. So keep that in mind. Use line of warnings aggressively. Empowers, I will keep that in mind, keep that in track, and then symbol swiftness for constant swiftness. We will rarely use symbol of swiftness offensively, because symbol of swiftness will hurt other fields that we might be bombing into. So what I'll be doing is using symbol of swiftness conservatively as a field for us to bomb into. So I can throw symbol of swiftness in front of us, switch to greatsword, leap into it, and then give area retaliation. So I want to be using that conservatively, because I don't want the symbol of swiftness to be interacting with other possible fields that we might put down. For greatswords, if we're running a 6-man guardian team, I'll probably be doing a split 3 hammer, 3 greatsword. The thing about greatswords that I really like is the ridiculously long leap that you get out of it. You also get the pulls out of it as well, and then the retail from Symbol of Wrath. And if we are stacking tight, we're allowing area retaliation. When we're bombing into a location and we're taking a lot of heat, if the front line's taking a lot of heat, we can throw down Symbol of Wrath and allow retail to groups around us, because retaliation is an overpowered boon. This, remember, is a combo finisher, a world combo finisher. If you don't know combo finishers or don't understand combo finishers, go to Wikipedia. The quickest way to go to Wikipedia is to type in /Wikipedia or /wiki. There you go, /wiki, press enter, and then the wiki page will pop up. It won't show on my screen, but the Wikipedia page will be up right in front of you. So information's always on your tips. So if you don't understand blast finishers or combo finishers, please look it up. It's quick and easy. It's painless, so just look it up and research for a bit. So when we're bombing into a group, when we're leaping into the group, so stopping to power, 3, 2, 1, stop in power, lines in front, leaping into them in 3, 2, 1, leap in now, retail up, and then whirl. When I call for pulls, I'll be calling for pulls as well. The thing about pulls is that it's a bit tricky because sometimes, oftentimes actually, you'll be blinded when you're calling for pulls. So the thing is, you need to pay attention to blinds. So when we're leaping into a group, it'll be up to the warriors to use shake it off before I call for pulls, or warriors to use shake it off right before they use their hammer stuns, because a hammer stun that's blinded is a hammer stun wasted, and also for the pulls, right? So use your shake it off for warriors wisely, like right before you calling your pulls or right before you get your stuns in. An expert will use their shake it off. Warriors will use their shake it off mid leap. So if you play warrior a lot, you know when you use your so you'll be using your hammer stun, and then in mid leap of your hammer stun, you use shake it off. So we'll be using key binding for that, because clicking it will take way too long. So key binding for that, you shake it off right before the hammer hits the ground, and then you can get your stuns in. And if guardians utilize their binding blade at that time as well, you get your pulls and you get your stuns. For hammer, let me equip my hammer right quick. The main skills you'll be using is your 1 skill, obviously, your number 2 skill, your blast finisher, your mobs forward, and your ring of warding. So the idea is, let me res this guy right quick. So the idea is that this is your blast finisher. Now, as Mash pointed out, one of the guild raids is that you can essentially get 2 blasts out of the blast finishers. The initial blast comes for the initial leap, and the secondary blast comes from the actual hammer hitting the ground. So the idea is to have your fields right in front of you. So you drop your fields right in front of you, and then you use your retail up, retail up. You get area retail off the initial leap, and then retail again on the blast on the ground. So with the water field, it works best to have 2 blasts for water fields on the initial, and then again on the second hit. The most powerful skill you have on your hammer is essentially your Zealot's Embrace, because you can't stun block immobilize. So we'll be using immobilizes before we actually move into a group before we bomb, therefore we can lock down our targets and then bomb into them. Look at the range is 1200, so you have a pretty far way to actually get that stuff in. So even if you're like the guardians who have greatsword are leaping in with the range of 1200, the guardians with the hammers can actually move forward and immobilize the targets we're leaping into, and then the group that leaps in will do the initial damage, and then the guardians who come in later with the hammer, like 2 seconds later, can finish up the job with their blast finishers, and then ensure that they don't run anywhere with their ring of warding. Ring of warding is essentially a last resort, because we don't want the light field to actually conflict with any other fields we might have down at that time. So like if I was to ask for offensive big water on the place we've already bombed, and you throw down your line of warding, you're screwing up the water healing. You're giving us retaliation instead of heals. So be conscientious of that. Use it only when we're trying to finish off a target that's low health and trying to get away. Otherwise, if it's a down target, just bash through them and move on. If you have a powerful front line, which I'm hoping for of 10 people. At most we're getting about 5 or 6, so we need a few more. Get 10 people and we bash through. We can get down people dead pretty quick. So pay attention to that. Running hammer is a lot of fun. The leaps forward, the leaps are pretty small. Range of 300 as opposed to 1200 you get from the greatsword. So when I'm running greatsword, I'll try to be leaping in conservatively. Leap in probably at 600. So the guardians that are running hammer don't fall too behind. So when we're blasting into it, guardians with hammers can get there in time for the blast to be in. So that's essentially the basics for each weapon. Use your overlight as a mobile heal. Your Sybil Swiftness should always be on cooldown, constantly getting our... And powers, don't worry about that, I'll worry about that. And the lines of warding aggressively, preferably on the front line, on the enemy front line, so we can constantly keep them controlled. So any poor man or poor girl that's out there who doesn't have stability, you hit them with a line of warding aggressively and we're good to go. LE should also be using their static field aggressively. It's about the same cooldown, so you have no excuse to not use your static fields, because I'll know when my line of warding's off cooldown, your static field's off cooldown. So I'll be paying attention to that. That's essentially the basics for Guardians. So you have the proper armor, the proper runes, the proper weapons, the proper sigils, and the trinket should start off with PTV. If you find yourself surviving a lot, then you switch to Zerkers. Get some Zerkers in there. So, basic skills. Reminder about renewed focus. Pop your virtual resolves, renewed focus, pop your virtual resolves again. You can also pop renewed focus, virtual resolves, and then when renewed focus gets off its duration, 2-second durations, resolves will be recharged. So you can get the burst heals within the 2-second marker. Instead of having to wait for renewed focus to finish, you can get all of it done within 2 seconds. So a lot of burst heals, including from the sigils, the sigil of water, virtual resolves, and the orb of light. We get a lot of burst heals on the go, so we don't really need a lot of water fields if we're utilizing that aggressively. That's essentially the basics from the Guardians, the armor, runes, trinkets, and weapon skills, and weapon utilization. For more intermediate players, what I'm expecting is you guys to stay tight on tag. And being tight on tag requires you to have perfect rotations of Purging Flame and stability. This requires perfect communication. Either that or complete trust in your party. Like even if you're not talking, complete trust in your party, where if you're looking at your party members, you're looking at the stability they have, the boons they have. So if they have stability up, you're not wasting your stability, right? So what you want to do is see if your party has no stability, and then pop your stability when needed. Look at your party, look for chills, look for cripples, and then use your Purging Flames. So you have, for my more intermediate players, you guys need to start working on that, paying attention to where the tag is, staying tight on tag. And the best way to stay tight on tag is to use these skills on perfect rotation. Stability 1, Stability 2, and Stability 3. The tighter you guys stay together, the better healing you can provide for each other because of these burst heals I'm talking about. So for my intermediate players, I want you guys to be looking at your party window and looking at the conditions and boons that your party has, the conditions and boons that you have, and then using your skills wisely. Don't spam skills, use it wisely. Because with a 28-second cooldown, that can mean life or death. That's a pretty long cooldown. So pay attention, stay focused. For my more expert players, I essentially only have like one expert player for a Guardian right now, and they do everything perfectly, and so there's nothing much to talk about for expert players as of right now, because what I'm expecting are all our guardians to get to is to the intermediate standpoint, and currently we're not there right now, mostly because we don't have enough guardians. We have maybe 4 guardians, good guardians in the guild, and what we need is about 10 good guardians, so therefore we can have guardian rotations. Because if a guardian wants to play elementalist, we're kind of taking off one class that we need and putting it to another class that we need, and that's not really helping in the long run. So I need people to start stepping up, playing guardians. This is essentially what you need to aim for. It's pretty straightforward. It's not that difficult. The basics alone are not that difficult. The staying on tag takes some practice. So we practice 3 times a week, so you should get your practices in. Even if it's for just an hour, keep your practices in. Keep your mobility forward, keep your focus forward. You have to keep your CCs on your enemies. So I'm expecting that for my intermediate players is to constantly have their cooldowns as a part of a habit. Like, they don't look at their cooldowns. They can essentially, it's second nature. Like, your line of warding is off cooldown now. Switch to your staff when I call for empowers and use your line of warding. You shouldn't have to be looking at your skill bar and essentially looking if you have cooldowns ready. It should be just second nature for all my intermediate players to have all their cooldowns memorized. If you don't have it memorized, look at your skills and look at the seconds it has and correlate with the seconds it has for your utility skills. So make sure you have all your cooldowns ready when they're needed and you don't spam it. I understand when you're about to die, you tend to spam your skills, but that kind of fight or flight response is kind of needed for you to stay alive, to use your burst for you to survive. So that's essentially the basics for Guardians, and then the intermediate gameplay I need you guys to be focusing into, and that's boons and conditions. Remember that Guardians have a lot of light fields, your Ring of Warding and also your symbol. So what you can be doing is be providing a lot of retaliation. And as you probably have noticed, that the retail for the Guardian Hammer doesn't have to be right on the Guardian, right? Or right in front of the Guardian. So you can have the field, on top of the Guardian, and then when you use your hammer for actual retail, you get retaliation in. The only concern I have is that since the Guardian has to leap forward, I prefer the water field to be forward, because the warriors will blast into the water field as well, because I don't want any of our hammer guardians to be out of position when they're blasting. They're doing a good job of blasting, I don't want to be out of position. There are some ways of trying to get your guardian hammer to not leap so far forward in blasting, but that takes a lot of skill to actually prevent your guardian from actually leaping forward and getting that full 600 range in for blasting. So I'll probably show that in later videos, probably in combat videos. When I'm actually in combat, I'll post those videos soon so you guys can see how I survive. But the way the build is, it's pretty tanky. So you shouldn't be taking a lot of damage with so much vitality and so much healing. For food, you guys should be having the leek soup at the very least. Let me pull that up 1 second. So the leek soup, at the very least, should be getting this. 8 silver each. I know it's probably a little expensive for some of you people, but at the very least you should have this. For the increased or decreased condition duration. So you have, for Guardians, you should be having negative 56 at the very least condition duration. If you have the gold, go for the minus 40%, so you get minus 60% condition duration. Therefore, you can use your purging flames less often instead of constantly so therefore we can use it more conservatively and have our rotations up perfectly fine. So this is the basics and intermediates. Expert gameplay, it has to be done in a Zerg fight. It's really hard to do this in expert gameplay, here, without a group, without a Zerg. So when I start, if our guild leader is tagging up, or hopefully one of these days one of our members tags up and starts commanding, or if I'm following a tag from another guild, I'll try to remember to post a video of me playing Guardian to show you how I stay alive in Zerg fights. And therefore I can start telling you guys about more expert gameplay strategies. So where you guys can learn to stay tight on tag and learn to look at red rings on the field and learn to blast a water field on the go even when an elementalist doesn't call a water field. Paying attention to the fields in front of you, both good and bad, and then paying attention to the boons that are on you, the conditions that are on you, and the boons and conditions that are on your allies. So this is what I, at the minimum, expect. All guardians have all the runes and armor, and sigils, and weapons, and trinkets. Get familiar with all your skills, and have this layout. I should never have to call this out, like tell you guys to have this. The only thing I'll be telling you guys is to talk within your party and get the rotations up. But right now we only have, if we're lucky, we have one party of 3 guardians and 2 warriors, so I set that up automatically. But in the future, I expect in 2 weeks. That's my goal. In 2 weeks. Today is June 5th. So in 2 weeks, I want us to have a full 10-line frontline party, 10-man frontline party, 6 guardians, 4 warriors. So I need a handful of you people to step up and start playing guardians. It's not that difficult. It's a lot of fun. With your loot stick, you're getting a lot of bags. I mean, the majority of the gold you see that's being displayed on my Guardian right now comes from playing as my Guardian, because you make so much gold playing as your Guardian. So, if you're concerned about bags, you want your bags, hell, play a Guardian, you get a shit ton of bags. So, pay attention, focus up, you know, that's all I ask, is someone to take initiative and stay focused in fights. But hopefully this is informative. I'll be posting more videos for Elementalists and Necros in the future, and then hopefully get the rotations in for me to play each class in a Zerg fight, and then show you guys what I do to stay alive, and how when I'm playing backline I can get my fields in without dying. The earlier videos that I have about my Elementalist is back when I first played Elementalist. So I was like rank 18 or rank 26 on my Elementalist before the World versus World ranks got account bound. I was maybe around 20-ish, 20, 25 rank when I posted my first videos as playing as an Elementalist. So I'll be updating that with myself playing Elementalist, 2.5 months later, to show you how far I've at least progressed. And since I've been in the guild for well over a month, I expect you guys to be on that level. For all our Elementalists to be on my level right now, because I'm not the best. I'm far from the best. But at least I'm learning how to stay alive and putting your fields down. As a minimum I expect. Stay alive and fields down. That's all. For backline. Frontline, it's all about staying on tag and getting your rotations done. Those are 2 things I ask. So it's pretty fun. I hope to see more people in our raids. I'm usually getting about 18 to 20 people in our raids during reset. This Friday I'm hoping to get about 25 and we get our parties full. So this requires some initiative, some discipline, and some focus, and we can get this all done. Thank you guys for listening. If you have any questions, just PM me in game. Mail me in game if you want a more intimate session where we work together in Heart of the Mist or someplace else. Just ask. I'm available, and then we can set that up, and then we can practice one-on-one. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you guys later.